Beyond the Mic with Sean Dillon.
We're joined on the Starline by guitarist, vocalist, and founding member of Firefall. Out on tour supporting their latest album, Firefall. Friends and family, we welcome Jock Bartley.
Hello, how's it going?
Absolutely great, Jock. Let's go beyond the mic. Friends and Family features classic songs from other 70s bands, including Hart, Skynyrd, Doobie Brothers, and more. Why was this an important project for you?
Well, it was interesting. Our manager, who's also our record label, called me about a year and a half ago and said, you know, the original members of Firefall, a lot of you guys played in other famous bands like the Byrds and the Flying Burrito Brothers and Hart and Spirit and JoJo Gunn, and in my case, Graham Parsons. And you said, why don't you do an album of just their songs? And I went, that's a great idea, but let's expand that. I said in 1976, when our first album hit real big and it went gold real quick, and, you know, we were on tour with all the best bands of the time, we toured with the Doobie Brothers, the band, with Robbie Robertson and Levon Helm and Lynyrd Skynyrd and Marshall Tucker. I said, let's do a song of theirs too. And he said, that's a great idea. And once the concept was in place, that for me, as leader of the band and guitarist and producer of this album, said, we have our pick of about 200 or 300 of the best songs of the late 60s and 70s.
Now, what was the dividing line for the song choice?
Of course, you had to be careful. At one point, somebody said, hey, a Heart song, let's do Barracuda. And I went, no. You know, you don't do certain songs. So we had to pick fairly carefully, but it was really great to be able to do some of those great songs from the 70s from bands that we got to be real good friends with. Lynn, when he heard that we toured with the band, he said, great, you can do Up on Cripple Creek. And I went, no friggin' way. I said, Levon Helm is the only guy that should ever really sing that song. So we went song by song. Songs like Angry Eyes by Loggins and Messina was a natural, was an easy choice. But picking the Heart song or the Fleetwood Mac song, it was like, how do you pick that? So I opened it up and people said, well, how about this? How about that? And, you know, and a lot of times it was like, oh, right, World Turning by Fleetwood Mac. You know, it's like, okay, not one of their biggest hits, but a great song by Lindsey Buckingham. So it was a one of a at a time kind of choice. And we filled it up and it was really great. And hey, I've got a scoop for you, Sean. I have a scoop. We're 6 songs into Friends and Family 2.
Yes.
And we're picking 12 or 13 more songs. And
you heard it here first.
You know, it's just so much fun, to be making albums, you know, 2 albums in a row out here. And, you know, I'm in my 70s now and it's like, great. You know, and I've got Steve Weinmeister and John Bisaha are my lead singers now. And I sing some songs and the low parts and stuff, but they are so great vocally, as you can listen to on Friends and Family. They sing their tails off. So it's just great fun.
When you're out on the road, what makes you happy?
Playing that hour or 75 minutes on stage, you know, especially now post-pandemic, traveling in airports and airlines where I won't name any airlines, but, we canceled 3,000 flights today. You know, it's like, you know, traveling is a nightmare now. And it sucks. But playing at the gig where, you know, and we do a lot of package stuff where we'll play with, you know, Ambrosia or Little River Band or Atlanta Rhythm Section or Orleans or sometimes REO Speedwagon. You know, to share the stage with other bands that have a lot of hits too, it's just really joyous. So there you go. The actual gig itself.
Jock Bartley from Firefall joins us beyond the mic for the Rockin' 8. Jock, all this is 8 random questions. Answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. There is no pressure. What's the one comfort thing you bring on the road that reminds you of home?
My guitar.
Favorite place to tour?
Well, it used to be Hawaii, but Hawaii and Vancouver, BC, and, you know, anywhere where there's appreciative crowds.
Jock, which album, in your opinion, is the best of Firefall?
Our first 3 albums were great, but I'd have to say our first album, when we made that record, and Rick Roberts and I got together, and then when Mark Andes got together, it was like, okay, this is a band. Rick said, I know Larry Burnett from Washington, D.C., and he writes great songs and sings great songs. You know, you want to hear a song? And the first song that he played us of Larry's with Cinderella, and we went, oh, get him out here. And, we had 25 original songs to work out of those two singer-songwriters in our first week of practice. And a lot of those songs like Mexico and Cinderella and Livin' Ain't Livin' ended up a year and a half later being on our first album. So Firefall has always been about the songs first.
Best place to think in Colorado?
The Glenwood Hot Baths in Glenwood Springs, directly out of the ground.
What was your first guitar, and do you still have it?
I don't. I was really lucky enough I showed an interest in guitar, and my mom in Colorado Springs, Colorado, heard about a world famous jazz guitar player named Johnny Smith, who had just dropped out of the New York jazz scene and moved to Colorado Springs. And I was one of his first students, and he was a maestro and was just amazing. And I learned all about music and what taste was. Of course, as a lead guitar player or a piano player or whatever, taste isn't so much what you play, it's what you don't play.
Exactly.
The old Miles Davis kind of routine. And, so I started when I was, 13 years old. So I started when I was 9 years old. And by the time the Beatles hit in 1964, I'd already been playing 5 years. So that was cool.
Best thing about your daughter, Jessica?
She's so brilliant. She's a scientist and graduated with honors from grad school in Florida. And she lives up in the Portland, Oregon area now. And yesterday was Daughter's Day. Yeah.
Do you do breakfast for dinner?
Do I do breakfast for dinner?
Yeah.
Sometimes. I haven't had breakfast yet. It's really early out here in Colorado right now.
Best concert you have ever seen you didn't play in?
Oh, now that's a really hard one. I'd have to say that it was back in the early 76, say. It would be either Fleetwood Mac during Rumors. Now, we were on the bill, but we didn't, of course, I didn't play with Fleetwood Mac or anything, but to see the Rumors energy. And the other band I'd have to mention is the band, Levon Helm, Robbie Robertson, Rick Danko, and everybody. They were, their first two albums are the two of the best American albums ever made.
It's time for One Big Question with Jock Bartley from Firefall Friends and Family Beyond the Mic. Jock, if you could have 10 minutes with Graham Parsons, what would you want to do?
That's a good question. I got to know Graham for about a month and a half, and then he went out and he and Emmy Lou made their second record, and then Graham went out to Joshua Tree and overdosed and killed himself. And I would just maybe talk about his country music roots, because he was one of the first guys that moved to Los Angeles who really had country music in his blood. And a lot of people attribute the country rock movement to Graham Parsons, but it was also Poco and Buffalo Springfield and the Byrds. Hell, they made that Sweetheart of the Rodeo album, So, it would be amazing to have 10 minutes with Graham Parsons again.
He likes sitting in the Glenwood Springs hot baths, loves Hawaii, and announced Firefall Friends and Family too, right here.
Yoo-hoo!
Jock Bartley, thanks for taking the time to talk with us today.
Hey, thanks. Have a great one down there in Lubbock, baby.
And that, my friends, is a Beyond the Mic shortcut.